Now, let's finish this ceremony with presenting God with food. There's nothing about that in the Bible. Which page are you on? Page 535. But there is only page 530. There are only 534 pages in our Bibles. Sinners, you ripped the Bible. Well, most of us have this sort of Bible, 534-page Bibles. You're the other one with a 535-page Bible. Who cares? Well, then, it's time for war. Bring it up. Darksham presents Puritanism. I actually kind of agree with Puritanism. I actually agree with how it works out, and so today I'm going to make a video about Puritanism. In fact, I'll split this into 3 parts. That doesn't mean 3 videos, alright? That just means this video will be split into 3 parts. First, we'll talk about the Church of England. Then we'll talk about the permanent civil war that happened because of this. Then we'll talk about the Pilgrims. And I finally created a whiteboard! Please don't make it messy. Pew! I said, don't make it messy. Dogok. Yeah! Well, here we go. And I'll start off with this picture. No, this picture. Yes, this one. Here we are in a common Puritan household. But how did the Puritans even come to be? Well, as I already mentioned earlier, we'll be first talking about the Church of England. Let's look at this TV screen, a Windows screen that was converted into a fictional TV screen. Before the Church of England existed, England was, like everyone else, under the rulership of the Pope. England was a Catholic country, and a lot of people hated it. And so when King Henry VIII came in, he gave in some reforms. The Church of England, because of divorced, beheaded, and died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. That's actually the reason why King Henry VIII created the Church of England, so that he could get a divorce, because Catholics were like, no divorces are allowed, ever! Not on my watch, at least. And the Church of England, based on this random monks guy called Martin Luther King, not the one you're thinking of, not the American Martin Luther King, but the German Martin Luther King, the 92 Caesars guy we made about. And that led him to, do 6 things, get 6 wives. Technically 7, if you count the one he was about to marry, but then realized, hey, the portrait isn't very accurate. And then his successor came, and, well, he was a kid. He was also sickly, so he died. But he kept Protestantism going in the Church of England. Also, he was heavily influenced by Protestants, who actually didn't want any reformation that these new so-called Puritans wanted. Primarily, the group of Puritans called the Radical Puritans, as I like to call them, because they were more radical than the non-radical Puritans. The Radical Puritans actually wanted a complete separation from the Church of England as well as the Pope. They just wanted to go ahead and do the purest form of this Christianity. And so, then Bloody Mary came along, tried to get the whole country to go into Catholicism, but then she had a short reign, and then was duped by the really, really good Protestant Queen Elizabeth I. Also, she still said, no to most of the radical reforms. She did pass some of the laws that the radicals actually wanted to do, but she says the Church of England will stay as it is, except for this one little detail and that one little detail. And so, that happened, and here comes the Civil War. There wasn't actually much fighting, but there were 3 players in this Civil War. Just to simplify names, I'll just call them the Church of England, or CO, the Unradical Puritans, or the URP. Don't even think of that. And then the RPs, or as I like to call it, the VRPs, Very Radical Puritans. And here's how it works. Let's see their standings. The people actually want everything to stay the same, just very Protestant-y. The URP people just want to change the Church of England, or the people, a little bit. They still wanted to be called Coes, though. And the VRPs, well, they wanted to separate from everything. They were probably famous because of their bland way of life and saying no fun in life. Fun will put you into the devil. Also, I'm pretty sure that they had fun imposing the no fun rule. I'm pretty sure if that works, then by their logic, they're all doomed to hell, which doesn't really seem promising. But then they basically got religious persecution everywhere. Why is this guy red? There we go. And so the response of the ERPs was basically to stay with Co. But they really didn't change much of the Co again. So the VRPs decided to take everything into their own hands. They decided to move to a new place so they can start this new religion. Now you might be thinking, they were the Pilgrims? Some of them were, yes, but not at first. They didn't just go straight from England all the way to Plymouth, Massachusetts. In fact, their first choice was actually the Netherlands. But then they decided to scrap that idea because they had a problem. Teen angst. Their kids were probably more interested in actually going ahead and start talking about Dutch stuff and keep up the Dutch culture instead of keeping up the VRP values. In fact, I'm pretty sure their moms and dads weren't that happy when they found out their kids started to actually like wearing clocks more, and they actually decided to start speaking Dutch much more. Yeah, speaking Dutch is probably just against the English way. Well, at least back then it was. And we end up with number 3, the Pilgrims. So they ended up into the dump, and they went ahead and went all the way to the new world that we today call the Americas. And here we are, in the Americas. And now that you're in America, what are you gonna do? Take this big old something not much of a use rock and turn it cold into a Plymouth Rock just because this is the rock where we first stood on when we came here in Plymouth, Massachusetts? Other than that, well, bad news, people. We're not in the right place. We're not in Virginia Company land, territory. We're somewhere new, uncharted. We're up north here, instead of where we should be, here. And that was particularly bad news because they just arrived somewhere around December and their food supplies were really low. But the first problem they had to tackle with was basically the laws. They actually expected to follow the Virginia Company rules, but since they weren't in the Virginia Company territory, they had to make up their own rules. And we know this set of rules exists because according to one of the sailors who actually went to haunted Mayflower journey themselves, actually wrote a letter or a document about the whole message, like the Mayflower Compact thing, which was signed by like a lot of leaders of the Mayflower, of the people on the Mayflower. In fact, that's actually how they decided to end up with Plymouth too. They ended up on Plymouth, and they couldn't figure out how to grow English crops on American soil because American soil and British soil are two very different things. So they had to go on their last resort. They had to go ahead and ask the Native Americans for help, which was literally against their way of living. But if it meant survival, we can break it. They made friends with Native Americans, and the Native Americans taught them how to grow seeds, American seeds. And they said you need a dead fish too. I can imagine what the colonists were actually thinking when they heard that. And waste our food? It helps the plants grow faster. It's basically food to the plant. Not convinced, but I'll try it first, then I'll say, it works! It works! And then when autumn came round, they had the very, very first Thanksgiving. Also, there's no evidence that there was actually a turkey to be served and the first Thanksgiving. We can always imagine how it seems to be that this Thanksgiving was like. I mean, it was now completely said that like the 4th Friday or Thursday or something in the United States of America, President Lincoln basically declared that to be a national holiday. And that's the story of the Pilgrims. Epilogue. The Pilgrims betrayed the Native Americans with guns, which is way better than the bows and arrows that these Indians got. Just because out of greed, and yeah, because that's human nature. And that is the end of this very bloody and very, very, well, not maybe, I'm not going to call it pointless though. It had some points in it. It really was a really great war too. By great, I mean it changed the whole world. Without it, America would probably not exist. Or at least it wouldn't be like what it is today. Or it wouldn't exist right now, but it would exist in the future. At least not in the state it is right now. And that's basically the end. That's the story of Puritanism and the Pilgrims. So if you enjoyed this video, I really hope you guys will want to watch more of my videos. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Scarlet Letter. Yippee-ki-yay! Quick, put it back up. Yeah! There we go. Just like brand new. Bye, see you guys soon.